In the chat, I just shared the link to YouTube. If you want to share it on your public social media, you're welcome to. As this is a public event and everyone is welcome to enjoy the experience being shared. Same goes for WhatsApp groups that we have. Thank you, Brother Jeffrey. Okay, brethren, I've shared the link to all the domains, and let's give one more minute for those who want to join us on Zoom, and then we start with the standard procedures. I guess we are almost ready to start and launch the meeting. So your microphones have been disabled. You can use the chat room for your comments. And once again, I would encourage using it if you have anything during the lecture that you want to kind of mark down as a question, as a comment. And after the lecture is over, we definitely will go back and check them and read them for the speaker to elaborate and respond to you. So I will start now with the introduction. So, Kamar Jubat, this is hello in my native Georgian. Welcome to Sapere Aude number 304. And the topic of the discussion today is the teachings of Maat from ancient Egypt in comparison with Masonic teachings. And that will be delivered by Brother Salman Sheikh. Before I introduce our speaker, I will remind that we had a very interesting discussion earlier this year, which is available on YouTube with Brother Salman. And I would highly recommend for those who are interested in Sufism and interested in comparison of our fraternity with the Sufis philosophy to check it out and enjoy it fully. Also, you may find very interesting a lot of talks that are delivered by Brother Salman on his own channel, and the link to the channel will be shared during the lecture in the public chat here. So have those recommendations in mind. So in continuation of the series of public lectures, we have the honor to host Brother Salman Sheikh, who is a Masonic lecturer, author, and writer. His writings have been published in various Masonic magazines in USA, such as the Pennsylvania Freemason, Rocky Mountain Mason, and the Southern California Lodge of Research. He has given lectures to various lodges and Masonic bodies online and in person, such as SRIA, which is Societe Rosicruciana in Anglia, and the lodges in the USA. He has produced over 100 YouTube videos and lectures. The link will be shared later in the public chat on Facebook chat as well. And for those who are watching it as a recording, find the link in the description of this video below the video. So he has produced the videos on the studies of Masonry and its comparison to various paths to find the oneness in all of them. He recently published a new book, The Spiritual Reflections of the Freemason, Volume 1, which is available on Amazon in ebook and paper format. He is the first person in his family to become a Mason and follow the Sufi Tariqa order at the same time. He belongs to the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, FAM, under the ancient accepted Scottish Rite Valley of Philadelphia, 32nd degree, and a Royal Arch Companion of the Holy Royal Arch Chapter number 183. Also, and Mason under the Lansdowne Lodge number 711 in Pennsylvania, USA. So I will use the opportunity to remind about the very simple rules that we have here in Sapere on this platform, and that we don't discuss interjurisdictional issues. We do come here to learn more. We remind that Sapere Aude is an international, public, educational, apolitical, and independent platform that welcomes everyone, male and female, members and non-members. And we come here as individual members of our society, as individuals who want to learn more about the fraternity, about different philosophies, organizational culture, national aspects, and definitely we are here to learn and try to expand our horizons, widen our understanding on different schools and teachings, and with some focus or with the glasses of Freemasonry, trying to find what are the links there, what are the teachings that surround us, and what are there that we can enjoy more. Once again, we come here to learn and understand. We don't come here to proselytize any Masonic tradition. Would it be traditional mainstream? Would it be liberal? Would it be any different groups? We just are what we are. We are individuals who want to learn. And even though we may belong to different jurisdictions, and even though we may hold higher ranks in our jurisdictions, we do not represent them here. Anything that we share here are of our own personal nature, and those opinions, comments, questions that we share here during our discussions should be treated as our own individual ones, and those may not necessarily coincide with the official standpoints of the organizations we may be affiliated with or be member of. So please have and bear that in mind when you treat our comments or opinions shared here in the future. So having said that, it is my utmost pleasure to invite Brother Salman again to the Sapere Aude floor.
Thank you, Brother David.
Topic.
I send my fraternal greetings for you, all of the brothers and sisters here of Sapere Aude. Thank you so much for always having me back, and I'm truly grateful to all of you. I hope you're having a wonderful month of May 2022, and I truly hope you enjoy what I have to offer. I dedicate this presentation to Brother David Chichinatse and to all of the brothers and sisters of Sapere Aude. And again, like what Brother David said, that the thoughts and opinions expressed in these talks are of our own and do not represent any Masonic authority. So let me hit the screen share. Okay. All right. Do you see this, Brother David? All right.
It's coming. Yeah, I see it. Just make it full screen and that's it.
Okay. Do you see it now? All right,
Absolutely
perfect.
fine.
All right, let's do it. Okay. So, greetings and peace, everyone. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. The presentation I would like to do today are the teachings of Ma'at from ancient Egypt in comparison to Masonic teachings and what they imply for its followers. Ma'at is an ancient Egyptian goddess who associated the law of the land, or the rule of the land of how one has to live in order to live a good life, and how to be better and know better in their aspects. Therefore, I found a lot of similarities to what Freemasonry teaches us to its followers, and I wanted to make this comparison presentation because in reality, we have these teachings veiled in allegory that teach us the morality of life and what we need to do to apply these teachings in our lives. I thank you all for joining me, and I hope you enjoy what I have to offer, my brothers and sisters. Here we see Ma'at depicted on the left-hand side in an artistic depiction of what the goddess would have looked like. And on the right-hand side, we have the Nubian tribes in Africa who still symbolize Ma'at in the way that they dress and the way that they act, including the feather of the ostrich on their head and their life of dignity and respect, and being close to the tribe as we are close to our brotherhood, and helping their tribe like we help ours, and helping their local lands like we are taught to be faithful to our jurisdictions and countries of residence with food, agriculture, education, and growth. A lot of Nubian tribes still live their life in spiritual traditions of the land, which predate all other religions and philosophies in respect to nature. Ma'at is basically the daughter of the sun god Ra and the daughter of Hathor, and she was associated with Thoth, who was her husband, who was also associated with wisdom. She herself is known as the one of bringer of cosmic order, truth, and justice, just like how the Freemasons are the ones that are the bringer of order, truth, and justice as the guardians of this realm. So the aspect of order, justice, and truth, and her association with Thoth being the god of wisdom, that all related to the aspect of Freemasonry in ancient Egypt on how they would have operative masons who would build their temples, and the speculative masons, which from their aspect, it would be the Egyptian mystery schools, where they would have those that would basically make the monuments, and inside they would have those that would study in the mystery schools what it would mean to build yourself from the top to the bottom on how you would build a temple. And their mystery schools also had the three stages, or the speculative 357 aspects, where the first stage of the mystery school, it would take you 3 years to complete. The second stage, it would be 5 years. And the third stage would be the 7 years. So this is their version of the entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. The speculative school in reality, to be a master mason, would be studying proficiency and knowledge of 15 years, the 357 adding up to the 15. And it's a lot different how we have in with the Western world where you can become a master mason in 3 months. But in reality, there was a lot of teachings that those ancient Egyptian mystery schools would put their initiates through. In comparison, even now in the world of Freemasonry, we have certain proficiency tests you need to pass in order for you to move on to the next degree. I wanted to make this comparison presentation because a lot of initiates of mystery schools or fraternities in the world as we know it, not only in the West, but the world in general, deny any involvement with ancient Egypt. But if you look at the monuments and obelisks all across the world, you see the influence or tribute. And even in the Washington Monument, basically being an Egyptian obelisk here in Washington, D.C., including all major cities of the world having the depiction of an obelisk. You have the Sphinx, the two lions outside of most Masonic buildings, or its entrance of them. You also have a lot of Egyptian rooms, and a lot of Masonic temples have Egyptian rooms in them. So there is some kind of a spiritual connection that has been passed down, even if there isn't any proof. Like how scholars, they say they want something documented and they want citations, they want proof. But when history has been rewritten several times, it's going to be hard to find those connections. So you have to find them with your own heart and your own understanding. And not just with Ma'at, it's with any other culture that you come across that you realize it's teaching you the same morality and life lessons on how to be a good person. I like how we have our Masonic initiatic path, because at the end, my brothers and sisters, we're all one united body. We're one brotherhood, we're one mankind, and we're living in such turbulent times right now. And we owe this love and light to each other by walking each other home. And what Ma'at is teaching us is the basic divine order of the land, that if the guardians of this earth, who I believe to be the Freemasons, maintain the order of the land, then everything gets carried out accordingly. And that is something we have in regard to Ma'at. Basically, we are the sons of Ma'at in many ways, as the guardians, as the bringer of cosmic order, justice, truth, and fraternity, liberty, happiness, all those things that we strive to be, our fraternity exemplifying on a global scale. Here we have the 7 principles of Ma'at. One of the main teachings of Ma'at that stood out to me were the texts that were discovered from the Middle Kingdom era, where she declares that I made every man like his fellow, and how in Freemasonry we have that all of our brothers were all equal, and all men are equal before the altar. Ma'at calls the rich to help those that are less fortunate, and not to exploit them in any way, and be charitable, not just to your community, but to anyone that you know that can benefit from your help. One of her tomb declarations says that I have given bread to the hungry and clothed the naked. I was a husband to the widow and father to the orphan. So there's that connection being made to Freemasonry, where we are taught to take care of widows and orphans. That's one of the main tenets of who Freemasons are, the ones who love, protect, and shelter their widows and orphans. Made to the widow's son, the orphan, that being the father to it and being the guiding figure and the guiding force to help that individual on his journey, which I found to be a Masonic comparison, including the feather that she wears on her head of truth and justice, which are still exemplified not only by the Nubian tribes, but many Native American tribes here in America. Ma'at encourages helping widows and orphans, just like Masonic principles and charities. Ma'at also has the 7 principles and its systems of morals and values that guided throughout the behavior, and it guided thought and behavior throughout the land of ancient Egypt, and still used by many tribes of that land to this day. Now, the system of Freemasonry, where you have morality veiled in allegory and different lessons to help you become a better man, Ma'at is from that similar perspective, and it's teaching us those principles. Now, the first principle being truth based in fact with honesty and integrity, where you must always tell the truth no matter what, even if it compromises your own self. So truth is something that will be the greatest wealth that will carry you to the next life. And the teachings of Ma'at are basically telling us that you must stand for truth. And in Freemasonry, we have the aspect of us living a good way, where you lived respected and you die regretted. And that is for the individual that stands for the truth always, no matter what. Justice and righteousness, a state of fairness and lawful judgment. So justice, you make sure that if you see something happening wrong, you make sure you speak out against it, whether it's within your power to do so, or if it's not your power to do so, you still speak out against it, because that determines the Freemason, the one who defends the weak and the ones who cannot defend their own self. And now, with the current times of turbulence, my brothers and sisters, all organizations across not just this country, but all over the world, including Freemasonry, are suffering their own form of divide, where one person's taking this side, one person's taking this side, other person's taking that side, and everyone's kind of falling apart in all organizationals across the world. And the human condition as we know it, as Freemasons, we're supposed to uplift the fallen state of mankind. But if we stick to this principle of Ma'at, of justice, where fairness applies to everybody, no matter what their skin color or background, that applies to us all. And that's what we should act like with our system of morals and values, and not be torn apart by chaos. So righteousness can prevail over all of us. So the third principle being righteousness, a state of consistent good conduct, making good men better. So if you're a good man, you continue to be better. You continue to be good in your conduct with yourself, with your family, your friends, and others. And that's the principle that applies to you. And it's not about just, okay, I show up at a lodge meeting two or three times a month, and that's when I act good. But outside, when I represent myself to most in my community, on social media, at my job, with my friends and families, those principles don't apply to me. So the principles you promise to upheld according to what Ma'at teaches is that it applies to you 24/7, including how you act with each other on social media. And you always have to be in a state of righteousness. You have to put down your pride and ego. Sometimes you can be wrong, and you have can learn and unlearn and vice versa. And it's about embracing what is there for you. And this is what the philosophy of Ma'at is teaching us in comparison to Masonic values and philosophy, that in reality, you have to embrace these lessons, because in Freemasonry, you are taught the lessons of the first three degrees. You are taught the moral values, the virtues in the side orders and royal arch, independent bodies and side orders. But there's two phases of your life. One, my brothers and sisters, is the learning phase, and the second is the application phase. So you must be able to balance the two with the 24-inch gauge, where you give time to yourself, to your family, to your loved ones, to your job, to the divine creator, in whichever manner you perceive that divinity. So it's about making sure that you find that balance, and there's that phase of application and learning. And don't forget to how to draw the balance between the two, like how Ma'at is teaching you to bring order into your life. Now, the fourth principle being to reciprocate, which is what goes around comes around. So this is being karma. What you put in, that's what you get out. And Masonic terms, that's what a lot of people say, is that with your Masonic experience, you get out what you put into it. So the same applies to this and to your other worldly endeavors, is that whatever you're involved in, whatever you're doing, even it's for yourself, as long as you're putting in the good work, that's what you're going to get back. If you're doing anything negative, that's what you get back. It might take 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and eventually you have to face those problems. And you can't ignore the problems, even if you see something going on, and you have the power to say something about it. And that's what we're seeing happening now in today's world and age. And there's a lot of issues that need to be handled. And we hope and pray that it's done with righteousness. And how what's going on today in the world that we're dealing with a lot of war going on, a lot of conflicts that are happening. And I'm happy to see that our brother Freemasons and humanity in general is coming together to help those and aid and assist those that cannot defend their own self. The fifth being balanced and equal distribution, imitation of weight. So balance being that you have to be fair to all of your dealings in life. You have to be fair to yourself, to your family, to your friends, and any endeavor you're involved in. With you, you can't give somebody more and give somebody less. You have to treat them all equally. And we have that today in today's society, and all the stuff that's been going on against the systematic approaches to think about different things, about how real estate agents act when certain people come to their neighborhoods and then they don't try to sell their homes to them, how the different systems of justice have treated some people better than other people, where the rich and poor have their own different forms of justice that applies to them, how the school system have helped excel kids of a certain background better, and they pushed other kids to menial jobs in community college level. So balance is that you have to be equal to everybody. And if you've done that, then that's when karma from the previous principle of Ma'at will come and straighten things out for you. Where if you ignore it for, let's say, 100 years, 300 years, 400 years, eventually that hammer will come fall down on you, where everything will have to get balanced in society. Being order in the correct sequence of thoughts and actions. So if you think good and you do good, and that's when you have a prosperous society. But if everything is about division, or he said, she said, I'm right, you're right, then that kind of ruins the aspect of human unity. Because Ma'at, even with what the pharaohs taught, is that the law applied equally to all subjects of Egypt. So the thing is that if you have good and bad in all races, religions, and groups in the world, you can't generalize the entire population based on the actions of a few. If I see somebody from a certain faith that is doing something wrong and I look at what their scripture teaches, their scripture doesn't tell them to do what they were doing. So that's the human action. That's not what the philosophy or faith is teaching you. That's the human element that's imperfect. That's not whatever background that they come from. So we have to realize and treat each other based on action, not appearances or backgrounds. And that's what Order of Ma'at is saying. We have to treat everybody equally, just like how our Masonic fraternity teaches us that we're all on the level and we all love and respect each other, regardless of our rank, jurisdiction, race, religion, and background. And make sure that your thoughts and actions are aligned with who you say that you are. If you're truly about being a good person and making a difference in the world and making a difference for your family and friends, then that should match your actions, because in order for you to attract someone, you have to look at your actions, and that's what will be the teaching moment for them. The seventh principle being harmony, one accord, a pleasing arrangement. So harmony, my brothers and sisters, everyone has to be one because we all come from that same divine source. And that's what we're all going to get back to, even from myself, the Sufi Masonic point of view, as you have heard before on this platform, where we believe that when you have a mineral that goes to a plant, plant goes to an animal, animal goes to man, man goes to angel, and angel goes back to God. So it's this hierarchy that we all belong to the grand architect of the universe, and all of us are equal as one existence on this planet. Basically, that aspect between good and evil, you have to find that harmony. And just like the black and white tiles of Freemasonry, where in life you'll have good moments, you'll have bad moments, you'll have bad moments, you'll have good moments, but in all of those moments, you got to know who you are, what you stand for, what is your purpose, and that what is the purpose that carries you towards. And that's what will always help you be unshakable in your convictions. Also, we see the Masonic principles of relief for the distress and being on the level where we are all equal. As Ma'at says, that I have given bread to the poor, I have been a husband to the widow, I have clothed the naked. And these are all things from Ma'at that Freemasons do till this day. As in my opinion, we are the sons of Ma'at, still doing her great work. Here we see Ma'at depicting her wings, and her wings basically were protecting Egypt from all the chaos and disorder and those who wanted to do evil. So the opposite of Ma'at, which is order, is Isfet, which is disorder. So that's the concept of God and the devil, where you have one divine force that's there to help you and assist you, but it won't interfere in your free will. You have to ask them to help you, and they will help you. And then you have Isfet, or the dark forces, which interferes with the human evolution, because chaos and disorder hates humanity. And that's the purpose of those forces. They will interfere with your free will and make you distracted from who you are. And throughout the ages, when these two forces existed, howsoever they're depicted, and different religions and philosophies show them in different ways, it's always about finding that balance, because one cannot exist without the other. As even in Freemasonry, we are taught balance between the black and white tiles, or the white lodge and the black lodge. You have to find that within yourself. So it's the aspect of finding that balance, and that's what Ma'at is teaching us, is that when we go through that hallway in our afterlife, the ancient Egyptian hallway of going through the afterlife, it's time for our hearts to get weighed. It has to be lighter than a feather, because it's Ma'at who will be there when that time happens. And it's about in our actions, not just as men and women, but no matter what affiliations or titles you hold in society, or whatever organizations you are a part of, majority of them are based on good actions about improving the self and improving the community, improving the world. So your heart has to be lighter than a feather. And that's why Masonically, everyone says that you have to travel light. So if you help somebody, you help them, and don't think about it again. But if you're going to help somebody and tell 20 people about it, then that makes the person feel bad about it. And that kind of ruins the good deed and makes your heart heavier. So it's the concept of Ma'at, my brothers and sisters, always teaches us, is that travel light always in your life, because you never know when it might come to an end. Because once it does come to an end, we must be held accountable for our actions in this life, whether verbally, physically, mentally, or spiritually. And as Freemasons, we always talk about the house not made with hands. And that's where we go, to those hallways and to those pillars and temples, the grand celestial grand lodge above. And we will be asked, and I will be asked too, that Salman, what was your rank? What was your job? What college degree did you have? What big house did you have? None of that means anything. It's about what good did you do for yourself and others. Because when I'm buried in the ground and I'm long gone from this world, my family would cry for me for a few days. My friends would cry. My fraternity would cry. My spouse would cry. But eventually, what happens, my brothers and sisters? You're a distant memory left in the ground, like a dream or an illusion, and people move on with their lives. But what you do take with you is what good did you do for yourself and others? Those are the principles of Freemasonry, the moral, philosophical principles that we can compare to the values of Ma'at as we see her being selfless, stretching her wings to protect all of Egypt and its people from Isfet and the agents of chaos. And right now, Freemasons are needed today in this world more than ever because we do have agents of chaos that are causing havoc all over. And we need Freemasons who are the bringers of cosmic order, divine truth, and justice, just like the sons of Ma'at and like Ma'at herself, to be the deliverers of those justice. Now we have the 42 laws of Ma'at. Here are the 42 principles of Ma'at. And what was fascinating to me is that these principles and the way of life and what they're asking of their subjects and those that followed it is to become good and to become better. It existed before any organized religion or any fraternal group or any philosophy at that time. So at most, what we see in history kind of only gives credit to a certain few, where if you look at the history, it's not really, history does not really mention Ma'at in that kind of regard. When we're studying law, we're studying philosophy. But if you look at history, you see how it's been revised to fit a certain agenda. Now, I have nothing against those, but if against that, thinking, but if you have to be open because you have to be able to learn from all aspects, you can't just say everything comes from one source and only accept findings that come from one source and not be able to learn from other cultures and religions that were always teaching those same things as well, because we have to be whole. That's one of the principles of Ma'at, that Eastern and Western teachings have to be whole. Let's go over the 42 principles of Ma'at. So the first is, I will not do wrong. I will never hurt anybody, intentionally or unintentionally. I will always make sure that I love and respect all those that come before me for aid, because even as Masons, everyone has a claim upon your kind offices, as we are taught in our philosophies. I will not steal. I will not act with violence. I will not kill. And that's why even in the lodge, you're not supposed to bring anything offensive or defensive in the body of an open lodge that can hurt somebody. And that's all of it is coming together for the aspects of Ma'at. Your whole life is supposed to be an act of harmony where the Mason cheerfully lives under the aspect of the government in which he lives. Understanding, what Ma'at demands is that you have to be good citizens of wherever your residence is, and you have to be good stewards of the society where others can count on you when they need you. I will not be unjust. I will not cause pain. I will not waste food. So to be fair and to be just in all of your dealings with others, you have to be so, as our fraternity teaches us. I will not lie. I will not desecrate holy places, as even the Knights Templars and Freemasons are supposed to be defenders of the faith, as Ma'at teaches. I will not speak evil, just like what Manly Palmer Hall said, is that the true Mason bows before every altar because he sees the beauty and the light and the charity between all faiths and cultures and religions and ways of life that exist out here. Because for the one great big work that we're all involved in, everyone is striving towards that, and we cannot exist in a narrow mind. We have to be able to expand our horizons and learn from each other. So we have to accept all those principles in our life. You will not speak evil. You will not abuse your sexuality. You will not cause the shedding of tears, meaning don't bring any emotional or unjust hurt towards anybody. And we see that even on social media right now, where you can have somebody that calls you brother, but when they go online, they can post anything derogatory towards another person's way of thought, philosophy, race, or religion. So you're shedding the tears because that's not fair. That's not the promise that you made before the divine, that all men are made equal. So we got to make sure as Freemasons that we're not biased and not in our echo chambers of understandings and not cause any hurt to anybody. Even myself, coming from the path of Sufism, you have to be open to all the teachings and philosophies that are there, because everything is teaching you the one great big truth, as we have the one mountaintop, but many ways to get to that mountaintop. If anybody says anything hurtful to you, you be the better person, either try to make them understand or walk away. But if you go back and forth, then there is no difference between you and that person. So you have to be fair and just in your dealings and make sure you don't bring any unjust sorrow to anybody or regret. Moving on with the principles. I will not sow seeds of regret. I will not be an aggressor. I will not act awful or unlawful. I will not lay waste the plowed land. I will not bear false witness. I will not speak against any person. I will not be wrathful and angry. I will not lay with a man's wife. I will not lay with a woman's husband. I will not pollute myself. I will not cause terror. I will not pollute the earth. I will not speak in anger. I will not turn from words of truth. I will not utter curses. I will not initiate a quarrel. I will not be excitable or contentious. So now you notice that everything that what I covered from all the way down, all the way from the shedding of tears, all the way down to being excitable or contentious. So this is basically teaching us in Freemasonry to circumscribe your desires and live your life within due bounds, and live your life in moderation, as our Masonic teachings and philosophies guide us to be. Do not be excitable or contentious where your passions get the best of you and you end up hurting somebody. You're speaking in anger and you utter curses. I will not cause terror. And this is what I see when I go to the local park is people are throwing trash all over the place. They're polluting the earth. They're being wrathful and angry with each other, and they're bearing false witnesses against each other. He said, she said, I'm right, you're right. I have to prove myself right so I can sleep easy at night. And that's not what it's about. That's not what the teachings of Ma'at are. They're teaching us, even in our Masonic principles, to do the right thing and guide each other home, as our brotherhood teaches us, that every human being has a claim upon your kind offices, and we're all walking each other home, and you must love and respect your brother, their orphans and widows. And those are the principles which our brotherhood can exemplify in a world today that's torn apart by chaos, which even is exemplified by the teachings of Ma'at. So all these things that were said thousands of years ago, before any organized organization came about, you have to realize that these teachings are needed today more than ever, and they're true, which even as time went on, other faiths that came about and other philosophies that came about, they exemplified these same values. I will not be prejudiced. You cannot be racist. You have to be able to love and respect everyone and not be in your own way of life, thinking, what about this ism or that ism that many people get into? And it's about working together. And even in American neighborhoods, if you go outside and you'll see people of different races and backgrounds living together, yes, things are not perfect, but peacefully they work together and their kids go to school together. And in the summertime, you can see the people hanging out at the park. So there is no need for that prejudice because we're all part of that one human family trying to survive. So moving on, I will not be an eavesdropper, as Brother David stated earlier, that as Freemasons, we have to be watchful for Cowans and eavesdropper, as we're taught to be cautious in our teachings. So not being an eavesdropper, I will not speak over much. I will not exact against my ancestors. I will not waste water. I will not do evil. I will not be arrogant, because pride and arrogance sometimes is our downfall. And we have to make sure that those that are acting in that manner and not giving other people the chance to prove themselves, we have to make sure that we correct their errors and help them become better. So in the aspect of us whispering good counsels to our brothers, you have a lot of those that get in high positions or they get fancy titles, and they have some kind of spectacular experience. And when everybody else tries to prove something to them, they think, oh, he or she is not even worth my time. I'm not even going to give him any credence or confirmation. So instead of meeting on the level, you already put yourself above your brother and sister. And that's breaking one of the laws, not only of Freemasonry, but of Ma'at. You have to make sure that you treat everyone equally. No one is above you, no one is beneath you. And that's what we're taught in Sufism as well, where the Sheikh will always tell you that the beggar is better than me. And you can ask the Sheikh, why do you say that? Because the divinity or the grand architect of the universe that we're dealing with in our own individual way is always watchful of our actions. And it's the eye of providence that gives you the true initiation of the heart. And overnight, things can change for you. So it's about making sure that you're not falling into the trap of arrogance. You're not doing evil. And it's not about basically that we're not acting against anything that takes away from the path of enlightenment. It's about doing the right thing. And those are the principles of Freemasonry and Ma'at, which are compatible with each other and relevant to our current human condition. I will not blaspheme the one most high. I will not commit fraud. I will not defraud temple offerings. I will not plunder the dead. I will not mistreat children. I will not mistreat animals. So this is basically giving you the whole menu of life, which even applies to the modern day more than ever. I mean, I would say even with our technology and all the advancements we have, we're still very backwards people. And that's why everyone's human hearts are spiritually diseased at the moment. And when the heart of the collective is spiritually diseased, that's when you have worries and anxieties and disorders. Everyone's fearful of each other. Relationships are not working out. Things are falling apart. Everyone's turning on each other. So we got to be able to realize that, okay, in order for a people's destiny to change, they have to collectively change themselves. Just like houses and all religions and philosophies, that God only helps you unless you make the effort to help yourself. So everyone has to collectively start cleansing themselves out internally. And once you clean yourself out internally, then that internal frequency of the inner temple will manifest out into the external world, because you are the reality that will create out into your physical world as well. And if enough people do that collectively, that's when you will have real change. And at that point, my brothers and sisters, it doesn't matter who's in charge and who's the decision maker, because then the people have collectively decided their destiny by their thoughts. So if we all come together and let's say 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people pray for peace right now in the world with all of the suffering that's going on, and everyone is thinking that where are the Freemasons, where are organizations like this, that for these organizations to exist, we still have so much human suffering in the world. There's something that we're not doing right. So the people have to come together and address these issues and find the middle ground with other people, even if they don't agree with them, at least for the sake of humanity. And that's the beautiful thing about the platform of Sapere Aude, that we all can come with our thoughts and opinions and learn from each other, because that is the purpose. And for that sake of love for each other and for the survival of our species, and carrying our teachings on, love toward forward, we can move forward with the future with love, especially in an age of artificial intelligence, where there have been instances where even when you're thinking about something and you haven't mentioned it to anybody, or you haven't have a conversation with anybody, you're scrolling through social media or YouTube, and those ads about what you were thinking about pop up. And this is something that can't be proven, but for those that have experienced it, they know. So it's getting kind of scary that we're losing our humanity day by day, on top of division that's like the icing on the cake. So I believe, my brothers and sisters, please take heed that we must turn the tide around with the principles of Ma'at and the principles and the teachings of Ma'at. We need to apply these teachings, and according to whether it's the Sufi path, Masonic path, Gnostic path, whichever path you follow in your life, this is universal to all of us. And we must come together as a people and not be divided for the sake of the future of our people and humanity and the children and whatever carries you forward, because we inherit those values and love from those who fought for it. And if we don't pass that forward, then we're doing a big injustice to them. So let's think about that. And act upon it. And ultimately, everything in our world, if we have Freemasonry today, if we have this brotherhood today, if we have the world as we know it today, it's because it was passed down to us. So we owe that responsibility to our future generations as well. With me, I'll be 30 years old soon, and I believe that there will be times of struggle, but it is our fraternity, my brothers and sisters, that always teach us about doing the right thing and making sure things fall in place accordingly. For nobody has any guarantee of this human life. Memento mori. Now we see Ma'at, the aspect of the judge. Let me see. I think there was one slide before this. Okay, yeah, here we are. Excuse me. All right. All right, so here we see one of the statues of Lady Justice that is often outside of US courts or other courts around the world. And that is basically the blindfolded goddess of truth and justice holding the scales of the heart and the feather to make sure that your heart is lighter than a feather and to ensure order, justice, and cosmic order. And that's why they're always outside of the courtrooms. And you see this concept of the Lady Justice throughout courtrooms, throughout all over the world. The concept is that you have to follow the teachings of the justice and tradition that have basically been passed on. And you have to see that you have to find these teachings and find where order, justice, and truth come from, and be able to see that it's all teaching you the one underlying truth. And Freemasonry as a whole, it teaches us the aspect of truth, justice, freedom, Ma'at giving us the divine cosmic order of benevolence, of being there for those that cannot be there for themselves. So these orders of justice that we see, we also have to learn that we all have to come together and apply those teachings in our lives. Here we see the Ma'at Anubis scales. And here we see Ma'at and Anubis at the twin halls. When one soul passes away, this is one of the halls of judgment that you must walk through. And this is where your heart gets weighed, the feather and the heart. And if it's lighter than a feather, then you make it onto the next realm. If not, then you get demoted to lower realms, just like how in all philosophies and paths in life, we often see that if you resonated with God or a divine force, or whatever helped you connect to that creator, you move on to the next realm. But if not, then you either get stuck here or you reincarnate or you go back to the lower realms lower than this until you work your way back up again. So it's telling us to not take our life as a joke and not to waste our time, as even Freemasonry teaches us, that make best use of the time that's been given to you, because our time is very precious. Just like how a Mason would say that each day that's given to me is a blessing, and the memento mori philosophy. With any other philosophy that you see out there, our time is precious and our time is the most valuable currency that we have, because it's our time and our effort and our love for each other and our good actions and our good thoughts and our good behaviors, which ultimately save us in the end. It won't be our titles or having any acronyms or numbers next to your name or big bank accounts or big homes. You're going to leave all that behind. That's all an illusion in this dreamlike world that we're in. The real reality is when you wake up, and then you're going to be there waiting there for you to judge. So you did not pass this test, or you didn't. So as I get really hurt at what I've been seeing recently in the world, especially in the US. And I tell people is that we can't let forces divide us. And what I refer to these forces is the agents of chaos. We can't let the agents of chaos divide us. They exist in all races, religions, groups, and countries of the world. Just like how you have the black and white tiles of Freemasonry, you have good and bad in all those things. You have to judge someone by their actions and how they are, not by what they, and not like by what they look like. So we got to get to that point where we get out of those echo chambers and those biases and be able to learn and unlearn and unlearn and learn again in that order, because that's the only way we're going to learn and grow in our journey spiritually. Because if we make it to that point, then all of our worldly wealth and status it will be for nothing. And it's about your thoughts, which will ultimately save you in the end, and having your heart lighter as a feather. And one who travels light is the one that's going to the next level. And here we see the teachings of Ma'at depicted here also, is that you will free yourself when you learn to be neutral and follow the instructions of your heart without letting things perturb you. This is the way of Ma'at. What do we see in Freemasonry? That where do you first become a Mason? It's in your heart. And that is ultimately it. If you become a true initiate of the heart, that is when you will find the true initiation within you and around you. Oftentimes, if your heart was not in the right place, and we are taught that in Masonic principles, my brothers and sisters, that if you have any improper motives, the eye of providence, which is there to truly initiate you, does separate the wheat from the chaff. And that's when people eventually find their way out of the fraternity, or they find their way out of other situations because your heart was never in the right place. So it's not about a degree, rank, or title or honor that's been bestowed upon you. It's about, were you truly an initiate of the heart? Because that's where you will find everything. And even you have the aspect of Sufism, the inner chambers of the heart. And what we see in Freemasonry is you do become a master Mason. That's good and all that, but there will be certain orders and esoteric groups that you cannot apply for, you cannot petition for. That's something that you have to be seen as worthy for. And that's if you're deemed worthy as a true initiate of the heart. So it all comes down to, what kind of feeling do you carry within yourself? Are you a true initiate, or are you just there for the social club benefits? Because who you are as an individual and what kind of frequency you carry, what Ma'at is teaching you, that's the type of experience you will have. So basically, you're like a mirror. How many magicians and Sufi teachers that you interact with, they will portray themselves as a mirror to you. So if you view them in a good light, and if you have good feeling towards them, they'll project that back to you. But if you have any other improper motives in your heart, your intention is not in the right place, or you have other agendas that you're doing, then that same will be projected back to you. So I know that this always talking about the heart can be a cliche, but there is much truth to this for those that are following these initiatic paths. Not just Freemasonry, but even if you look at the aspect of Ma'at, it all comes down to the heart. It's about doing the right thing and making sure that you're following this life according to even what our Masonic principles are teaching us, to be on the level, to be the guardians of this earth, to be the defenders of justice, and to stand up against those that cannot defend themselves, take care of your widows and orphans. And it's basically, I talk to many people who come into the fraternity, they get disappointed and they leave because they see the people that are not following the teachings of the heart. It's about finding that oneness within you, and you must be that beacon of light in a society that's in a very chaotic stage right now. But ultimately, order does come from chaos, and we have to be the bringers of that order, just like how Ma'at is teaching its followers, relevant to us too as an organization, that we must continue to be a part of that unity and that brotherhood in our teachings and the way we're carrying ourselves. Now, there's one more slide I have to cover, which is in my PowerPoint, I believe. I will open this now. And I hope, my brothers and sisters, you've been able to benefit with everything that I have offered you in the teachings of Ma'at philosophy in comparison to Masonic values. I have one more slide I have to share with you. So let me just get this open. Okay. I think when I was trying to put it in Google Slides, it must have caused some kind of an error. So just bear with me for 1 second as I bring this up for you.
Salman, actually,
Yes.
I see the 9th slide on your list.
No, that's not it. I think
That's
there's another one.
Then you have to close
one
this screen and then share the other one. It won't,
Got it.
it won't
Okay.
appear otherwise.
Got it. So let me share this final slide for you all. And here we are.
Yeah, come in.
Got it? Okay, so this one, my brothers and sisters, is the Ma'at, man and woman unity. Ma'at also is the unity between a man and a woman. So a woman's highest calling is to lead a man to his soul, unite him with source. Our lowest calling is to seduce or to, separating man from his soul and leave him aimlessly wandering. A man's highest calling is to protect woman. And as we see right now, that's a prevalent issue going on in the States about men being the defender of women. So she's free to walk the earth unharmed. Man's lowest calling is to ambush and force his way into the life of a woman. So we see Ma'at and the Ankh, and you see these symbols that is basically the male organ connected with the female organ, making one whole being. So many occult traditions from that time up until now teach you that aspect of that male and female energy becoming one, where some even demonstrate that physically. So this is basically teaching you that a man's responsibility, a man that's a good man, a Mason, the son of Ma'at, or my son, Mason, his job is to basically be the protector of the family and the giver of the community. That's why even in the modern Masonic terms, you have the ladies' nights where they tell you to honor your ladies and bring your ladies to the events, and other forms of being a good, honorable family man, where your first obligation, you are told, is to your family. Your family comes first before the fraternity. And when they come to your house to get permission for you to join the fraternity, they ask your wife for permission, and including your loved ones and your other halves and all your activities and beings of your life. So that's what it is in the modern society, has destroyed that relationship between the man and the woman. And with many different movements and agendas that are out there, we must realize that we must become one again, because we cannot exist without each other. And it's our love for each other that will help us become one. Just like in the Matrix, at the end of the first Matrix movie, where Neo, who gets killed by the three ruffians or the three agents that are chasing him, he's awoken by Trinity, who shares her life force energy with him, and they both become one. And then he awakens himself for the aspect of resurrection, death, and rebirth to become better again. He awakens himself, same thing at the second one, where he does the same thing with her. So it's a give and take, and it's about becoming one with those energies and not just with the opposite sex, but inside yourself. You have to balance that feminine and masculine within yourself as well, where you harmonize those male and feminine aspects of yourself to become one and to become better and to become stronger. That's why in many faiths, including the aspect of Sufi teachings, a man's faith is not complete until he marries a woman. A woman's faith is not complete until she marries a man. And together they can make that whole one united body. And if you look at even the same traditions and philosophies where Freemasonry, you petition to the brotherhood when you are somebody that is already a good man. You can sustain a job, you can sustain a marriage, you can sustain a relationship. That's somebody that you know already has a good foundation and can become a better man with the teachings of Freemasonry. So we see this described in all traditions and philosophies throughout time, that the two becoming one and connecting to that divine source energy, that in order to become a better man, you must find that other half to make you whole. In Freemasonry, your first obligation is to your family, your wife, your children, your job. A good man is one who can sustain all of these concepts. And even if you look at the Washington Monument, it is the obelisk. And where is it pointing towards? The White House, the Oval Office. So that's the obelisk and the ovaries and the masculine and feminine energies. Even in the outline of Washington, D.C., you will see that come together. So my brothers and sisters, I hope with the teachings of Ma'at, you were able to take something away from this philosophy of ancient Egypt and Ma'at. I tried my best with this presentation because with the teachings of Ma'at, there is not much information that is out there. So I hope with my perspective and with what I learned as a Freemason and as a Sufi, I was able to bring something home for you for Ma'at and Freemasonry comparison. I thank you all and I love you all very much. And this is for Brother David Chichinatse. All images and thumbnails retrieved were the property of their respective owners, and I claim no ownership. I thank you all. I look forward to the Q&A. And of course, next week, I have a very powerful presentation for you on Sufism and Masonry Part 2.
Well, again, thank you so much. It was wonderful comparison, wonderful refreshment of math principles, and this comparison where these two come together was thought-provoking. I see a lot of thank yous and thumbs up in the chat, and definitely reiterating all the 42 rules and the 7 principles of math has been something that, as you rightly said, predated all organized or religions, and somehow the mainstream, how to say, the history, mainstream philosophy of current concurrent civilization tell you that it was the product of the development of humankind that brought these principles around. When you see all the time that it pre-existed all the organized religions, and that's something wonderful, I think, and something that kind of leads us to ancient wisdoms which were there, and it's not that we developed it, it's something we might have been losing over the time, and that we have to all the time refresh and come back. At least it leads you to explore more, to see what the origins were. So thank you so much for refreshing these thoughts. And let's go to Q&A session. There have been some that has been shared already here. Now I will enable everyone's microphone, but as we have a lot of new participants, please keep your microphones off unless you are given the floor, so we can keep the good recording. Otherwise, on my side, as I have only speaker view turned on for the recording purposes and viewing it on YouTube later on, every time you kind of make noise or you nod the head and say something, the screen pops in and out. So please keep your microphones off, and we definitely come to you and we'll give you the floor when you will have enough time to kind of dialogue with Salman. So I will enable your microphones now. And in order to ask your questions, I will ask to go to the reactions icon. It has hidden icon for raise hand, which you have to click, and I will follow the order. And those who are watching it on YouTube, there are 7 of you. Please share your questions and comments in the chat room there, and we'll pick up all of them. All right, let's start with the first question that has been shared earlier in the chat that came from David Rivlin. How do you reconcile the 7 principles with slavery in ancient Egypt? And actually, there was a question that came from Pascal of ASAH. David Rowley, what makes you think that slavery existed in Kemet? May it be that you define prisoners of war as slaves? So would you elaborate on that? Was there slavery? And if was there, then how do you reconcile with the principles of math? And if not, then could you elaborate on that vision, please?
Yeah, that's a good question, my brothers and sisters. And again, in that time, even in Ma'at and ancient Egypt, at that time was the superpower of the world, according to their time and their respective era, where they had the mystery schools, they had all people that were there working together simultaneously. You had North Egypt, then you had South Egypt, where one aspect where you had the farmers and builders, and the speculative and operative Masons. On the other end, you had those that were the rich, the pharaohs or the royal bloodlines, and those of the different societies. So as Freemasonry teaches us, is that we are imperfect and only God is perfect. And that is reflected in our world as well. And we look at the world right now where there's so much suffering happening in the Ukraine, happening in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Syria, so many places that are suffering right now. So we can say the same thing about today, that we have the United States, United Kingdom, the United Nations, the powerful militaries of the world, social organizations, so many things that we have today, but why can't we stop the suffering of those lands? It's the same aspect that's applied to Ma'at in ancient Egypt. You will never have true justice that will exist in this specific realm that we are in. The Sufis call this that this is basically the middle realm that we're in, where even our Viking friends in Norway call this Midgard, that this is the middle realm, the realm of man. And this nothing is going to be perfect here. So those that follow the principles of Ma'at, they upheld justice in their society, like the Magi in Egypt, who were the protectors of their society, equivalent to Freemasons today. And you have Freemasons in the medical field, in law enforcement, in military, on the government level, on the diplomatic level. So those Freemasons that are out, who are still applying the principles of Ma'at, they're trying their best, but true justice can only exist on this world, just like how you have the Kabbalistic tree of order and chaos. One cannot exist without the other. Same thing you have. What is good and evil? If one goes away, then the other loses its purpose. The black and white tiles of Freemasonry, good and bad, white lodge, black lodge, they both need each other. So that's basically what it is. Yes, at that time, slavery existed. There are some countries in the world where slavery is still happening today. What are we doing about it? Right? So that's the thing is, there are some things which are in your control that you can deal with. Whatever is not in your control, you just try your best and let the higher powers or God, in whichever manner you perceive that divinity, let the higher forces deal with the order and chaos. If you yourself individually are making the effort to make this world a better place, then that's all that matters. If I went outside and fed the birds, or if I feed homeless people, if I help someone, then individually I made this world a better place with my own effort. So everyone individually has to contribute their own efforts. That if you're doing the work for the one great big work, then you already made the world a better place. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you. If you, David, if you want to follow up or share your comments, you're welcome to take the floor. Or Pascal, if you want to do the same. Okay, let's move on. And we go to Brother Hasso to London.
Thank you, David. Salman, I greet you well, and it's good to see you. And thank you for that presentation. We travel our paths and we learn and live, but the path is never different for any one of us. It's the same. But however the world goes, but the thing is, when you talk to justice, and I thought about it, the justice is truly, truly not for those who deserve it, but those who can tilt the scale to suit their own agenda. So justice is never truly available for those who justice should be looking after, but justice is available to those who can pay for it. One way or the other. So the whole concept of justice being equal on the scales and featherweight, I think that is, to me, is becoming more and more of a anomaly of thinking. That we're not really looking at the truth, but we are just identifying what sits on top of a court or a courtroom and think, blind justice. And the other thing is also the blindfold, to me now, truly represents the darkness which pervades our society. It's darkness. Yes. We are in the total dark now. No one is the principal mark that you have gone through are an ideology that we have forgotten about. We will never come back to those ideologies. Unfortunately, the world has now been so corrupted with so many directions which do not make us think of how and why and where, how do we become better. But I think also the thing is, law is no longer compassionate. Equality in law is not. It's not about compassionate. It's about application. You apply the law that suits the legislators because it brings in votes.
That's absolutely right.
And those who have to suffer that are not those who can afford to, again, what I said earlier, to buy the justice and make their case fit their needs. So I think, the ancient principles were based on a different morality. Today's principles, we use the same we try to use those symbols from the past, but we forget that today's thinking and lifestyles and those who benefit are not everyone. We have a very, very poor understanding of our own selves and our own thinking, and we just believe that that we do not we won't change because change may not be what we want for ourselves. We don't. When I say ourselves, I'm talking about individuals, not for the world. So I think it's something that and you hear people talk about it, and uh, uh, politicians want you to lead you and believe that what they're doing is the right thing. But end of the day, we all we 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 walk on a fire with our eyes open, and we know it's going to burn us, but we still walk on that fire. So I don't know. I mean, it's wonderful that you brought these concepts up online, but hopefully, even if we can follow a few of them and make things better for ourselves, But I mean, you are in the States, and we have had many conversations in the past, but the world is no different anywhere else. We're all suffering at the moment. We hide in our own houses and we think that not everything outside is paradise, but it's not. But
I agree, my brother, and I'm grateful that even in this journey, brother Hasu, that I've gotten a chance to come to England and sit with you, have coffee with you, sit in lodge together, and you are someone that has been an inspiration and prevalent to my Masonic journey, and even the Masonic journey, just a journey of human beings walking each other home, as we're all in this one collective individual reality. And that this reminds me of the Sufi teachings of Wadat al-Wujud, which I will cover next week as well, that all of us are an infinite reality and expansion of the grand architect of the universe, experiencing this reality and learning from each other. And that's exactly what it is. That it's unfortunate right now, whether it's in London or here in Philadelphia, where I'm at in the States, or in my home country of Pakistan, everyone is suffering in their own ways. Spiritually, everywhere you go, the crime is high, the inflation is high, people don't want to interact with each other, the neighbors don't want to look at each other. Man is separated from woman, woman is separated from man. Right now, we're having these issues here in America as well. So we're living in a very chaotic time where there are the forces of chaos and the agents of chaos that are trying to destroy humanity. But as the teachings of Ma'at and as Freemasons, we are taught to be defenders of civilization and humanity and the world. So it comes on us individually that what are you doing individually in your lives? Are you being kind to your neighbors, to your lodge, to your family, to your brothers? If all of you are individually making the efforts in your own personal lives, then each of you are collectively making a difference in the grand scheme of things. And ultimately, sometimes things are unfortunate. We deal with things we have control over, but the things that we do not have control over, what can we do? And that's what the principles of Ma'at and Masonry teach us, that do the right thing in the capability that you're able to, but at the end, you have to surrender as well. Surrender and give your heart to the divine and be divinely guided with the destiny that everyone is meant to fulfill.
But divinity exists in us. It's only that we don't see it.
That's right.
We cover it with darkness. But as I said, that's how life goes. But thank you very much for that, Salman. And I wish you and everyone well. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hasso. I'll take one question from the chat and then we go to Clyde. So the question comes from Patrick from South Africa. Thank you very much. In the image of Anubis weighing a heart, what is he holding in his right hand?
Yes, so with Anubis, my brother, thank you for asking that question. So in his left hand, when Anubis is there with Ma'at next to him, on the left hand, he's holding the feather of the ostrich, with which Ma'at wears on top of her head, compared to the Nubian tribes in Africa. So your heart has to be lighter than a feather. And if your heart is not lighter than a feather, then what Anubis is holding in his right hand is a heart. So that's basically, if your heart is heavy, then what happens is you get devoured by the jackals and demons of the underworld, because you failed to pass the test of this life, where you let pride, ego, arrogance, and evil and darkness overtake you. So in order to pass the test of the underworld and to be able to go to a better place, so you have the concept of heaven in the Abrahamic religions. The Vikings call it Valhalla, while the Greeks call it Elysium. It's all the same thing, where you have to be in the right place mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually for you to not get cast down into the lower realms. So in the right hand, he's measuring the heart of a being that has walked through the halls of judgment. And on the right and on the left, he's basically has the ostrich or the feather of Ma'at. So he's measuring, making sure that the soul that has been summoned there is able to pass the test.
Thank you. Let's go to Clyde, and then we have a few questions from YouTube and plenty of them in the chat. Clyde, floor is yours. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much for setting up this presentation. Thank you, Mr. Sheikh, for your lovely presentation. I'd like to open with, well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to narrow things down quickly enough, so this might be very abstract, and hopefully it won't be too abstract, but I'll start with this idea of being a true initiate of the heart. And I'm not that familiar with Freemasonry, and I understand prior to joining Freemasonry, like I have been drawn to it quite a bit. It seemed like a beacon of light my whole life, but I've resisted because I don't want to join for the wrong reasons as well. And so I was trying to get at what is it that people that Freemasonry requires prior to joining. Like, what is the prior like self-initiation that has to occur before you're accepted into this fraternity, and like I guess asking what the goals of the fraternity are is you've highlighted that quite a bit, but I'll get to that later hopefully if later happens. And it's this will be a two-parter if I could. I want to talk about the contradictions, both internal and like external contradictions, and the idea that we're trying to reconcile these contradictions in order to gain like a sense of harmony. What I've noticed is that the attempt of the people that we consider to be evil people, they're also trying to reconcile these other contradictions and trying to bring about harmony. And so I want to know what again, forgive me, my notes are all over the place. I want to know what your take is on how to engage your neighbor when your neighbor is actively trying to destroy you. How to engage your neighbor when they are extremely malicious, given everything Mott has tried to everything the philosophy of Mott has taught us, like this idea of reciprocity, balance, truth, justice, and like how do we apply that when we're at war pretty much, like I'd like
well, thank you, brother Clyde. I really appreciate your questions, and it's so refreshing to see, my brother, an individual like yourself who is participating in Masonic discussions and getting to know the brotherhood, doing your due diligence, and having your heart in the right place before you actually join the fraternity. And that is ultimately it. If you become a true initiate of the heart, you already are a Mason in your heart. And that's exactly what it is. And that's what increases the longevity of your journey, where you might have somebody that might come into the lodge system, they get the degrees and all that stuff. But then a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, eventually they go away. Why did they go away? Because internally their heart was not in the right place. So you have those that try to join for networking reasons. They think, oh, joining the Freemasons is going to get me connections all over the world, and it's going to help me become rich and famous. It's going to open so many things for me. So their heart was already not in the right place. And these beings, when the initiation happens, the eye of providence or the grand architect of the universe has already pierced through their heart, mind, body, and soul. And those people get separated from the wheat and the chaff. So Freemasonry, it's a system of self-improvement where it's teaching you to be a good man, to be a good husband, to be a good brother, to be a good father. And it's those principles that are there that is telling you that in order for you to learn something from it, you have to be a giver, not a taker. So it's teaching you to be a giver ultimately. And that's ultimately the path of this brotherhood, is that no matter what race, religion, or group that you're dealing with, any country you go to, Clyde, I can go to England, France, India, anywhere I can go, Georgia, I will always have a brother there waiting for me to take my hand. And that is the beauty, that we're all one united brotherhood. We're all brothers and sisters, and a lot of us have forgotten that. And that is why we are all suffering so much spiritually in this world, with so much hurt and crime and hatred that's going around. We need the Freemasons now more than ever to be the examples to the world that if we can come together, regardless of race, religion, nationality, background, then why can't you? If we can do it, why can't you? And Ma'at is teaching us the same thing, to come together, to prevail justice in a society that needs it badly. To answer your second question, I also dealt with neighbors who were a nuisance. And how I was able to deal with them is during holidays, like when Ramadan happens or other special holidays that happen, I always make sure that I make a separate plate of food, because the easiest way to somebody's heart is to offer them food. And you will see that in Masonic gatherings too, where we sit down and break bread. That helps you open up to somebody when there's food involved. So you always offer them food on a holiday and tell them, you're my neighbor, I'm your well-wisher, and just tell them that today's my holiday and I wanted you to be a part of my occasion. And you will see the look on their face change like that. I had the two neighbors to my left and to my right who were like that, and I was able to win their hearts that way, because in order for you to survive in any area, you have to make sure that you're good with the people on your left and on your right. And that's what ensures your survival and your peace of mind, not only in your life, in your home, in your street, in your neighborhood, in your community. Be good with the people that are around you. And if we, like what Brother Hasu said, everyone is afraid, they're all hiding in their homes, nobody wants to deal with anyone. Man doesn't want anything to do with woman. Woman is in that same predicament. We're all falling apart from our natural feelings and desires that we have for each other, to build relations, to be with each other socially, and even how COVID has affected this fraternity. And Brother David Chichinatse has improvised spectacularly in a beautiful and vivid fashion to make sure that we don't lose this human touch. Because what do you see now, Brother Clyde, when you go to the restaurants? People don't even look at each other and have a conversation. They're looking at their phones all the time. So we're losing our humanity. So make sure that you continue to preserve that in whichever manner you can. I hope, my brother, I was able to answer your question.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Clyde. As for, I would just add a few formalities that, depending on the place where you are and depending on the lodge that you will knock on the door and the jurisdiction, they might have slightly different formal requirements to join them. So it depends where you knock, where you reside, basically. And generally, they're the same requirements in mainstream or in liberal families of the mainstream, but still there might be some slight additional requirements depending on the jurisdiction you might be trying to join. So again, depending on your geographical residency, it may change slightly. Let me take the question from YouTube, from Kushal Thakur. is killing insect in the bathroom bed?
Killing.
And actually, there was a slight comment from just me, who says, whenever I have to kill an insect, I pray for its spirit and I ask its forgiveness. So is it bad?
Well, anytime I find myself, now I speak from personal experience. If anytime I find myself in that situation where I know there's a bee flying outside my home or there's an insect, I just put it in like a little cup and I let it out safely outside, because every being has a soul. Every being has a soul, and what happens is the bees are there to sustain the pollen. They're actually sustaining a lot of the life on this planet. So if the insects or the bees are gone, humanity is gone. So you have to realize that the insects, whether you're dealing with the praying mantis or the bugs or other things that are there, you have to respect the bugs. And even if I went to a local museum here and they had a tribute that they were depicting Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. And on that tribute, they had like tiny red ladybugs all over the tribute in the museum, which was attributed to Her Majesty the Queen of England. So the bugs are very special for those that know, and they're also a part of living creatures and souls that are an extension of everything that's going on around here. So if you see something that you get intimidated by, it's actually more intimidated by you than vice versa. Try to put it in a cup and release it safely outside to respect the sanctity of all life. And when you listen to my Sufi presentation next week, you will also realize that there are many beings and entities that are operating in this very realm before our very eyes, but they don't want to show themselves to us because look how crazy we are. We already hate each other, the human beings, based on the difference of race and religion. So why would advanced beings who are already here would want to reveal themselves to us? Because we get scared immediately, something that is different from us. So we must respect the sanctity of all life and put something in a cup and just release it outside. That's what I would do.
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely. Definitely. We're part of one big cycle. We are interdependent here. There was another question. Well, there are some comments which are in the public chat, which I will skip for time efficiency reasons. Some of them are interesting, and I will try at the end to return to them. Otherwise, I will first try to serve the questions that have been shared. So the first question comes from, not first, but Prophet is asking, what advice will a Sufi give a brother, sister that founded them aside from their heart, true will, and is broken over the self-reflection?
Well, that's a good question. And you know, what you have to do is ultimately you have to let your heart and the principles of your soul guide you. Now, every situation or circumstance in your life, you're always faced with the intuition of your heart. As Brother Hasu has stated, is that divinity is always within each and every one of us. So if you trust that gut instinct, but there's also the instinct of the heart. If you trust the instinct of the heart, whether you're dealing with a person, place, situation, or circumstance, if something feels right to you, it usually is. If something does not feel right to you, you will feel it. You will feel that uneasiness in your energy field. So listen to your heart, whether you're dealing with any group, any philosophical society, any individual, any circumstance. Act upon what feels right for you, because what feels right for you will never be against you. What is not right for you, you will see that whether you're dealing with people and their body language is not good, or they're not reciprocating the same love and respect that you're giving them back to you. So you have to ultimately listen to yourself. And you can have any person that comes into your life, whether it's a great guru, a Sufi sheikh, or a 33rd degree grandmaster, it does not matter. If your heart is not in the right place and you're not willing to do the work to make your life better and improve yourself, then none of that is going to mean anything. You get out of your life what you put into it. And that includes not only masonry, but any other path or endeavor you put your heart, mind, body, and soul to. You must be willing to do the work, improve yourself, learn and unlearn, and learn and unlearn at the same time, and remove those echo chambers and biases and be able to learn from it. I mean, myself as a Sufi Muslim, I can admit that all of the teachings we have, Ma'at was already teaching, predating everyone. So you must be able to take a little bit from each and apply that to your life. So I hope I was able to answer your question, my brother.
Yo, can I ask one question of mine? That is, I was trying to think to what extent math principles have been reflected in organized religions. We call it organized religions for easier kind of to cover all the major religions. So have you had during the research, and you've done a lot according to the channel and talks that you carry on a daily basis, I would say, have you found to what extent the Ma'at principles have been reflected in different religions, Muslim religion, Judaism, Christianity, or any other particular religions? Are there similarities in that sense that these principles are kind of inverted in different principles that are present there?
Sure, that's absolutely right. So my interactions have helped me be with Orthodox Christian friends, with Muslim friends, with Sufi Muslims, with Hindu friends, with Buddhist friends, Jewish friends. So I noticed in my studies and interacting with different beings that all of these principles that we find in Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, the golden rule, do unto others as you would wish to done unto yourself. The justice, the love, standing up for the right thing, being charitable towards the poor, defending the weak, helping your widows and orphans. It's all reciprocated in all of the traditions that are there. And that's what it is. If you go back to ancient Egypt, even to the time of ancient Sumeria in Mesopotamia with Gilgamesh and everything, all of those Masonic principles, as we are taught, Freemasonry is old as time immemorial. And we even see this in Gilgamesh, where he's the priest of the temple and he's wearing a sash around his waist and around his collar. And they talk about the 7 arts that were passed down to them from the ancients. So all of these principles of truth, love, justice, fraternity, and doing the right thing, the principles of Ma'at, they have been on this planet since as old as dirt has been, as old as Freemasonry is. It's those same principles that you will find in all religions. But ultimately, if you remove the human element, all religions and philosophies are teaching you the same thing. When you add the human element, that's when the ego gets in about your God, my God, I'm right, you're wrong, and those kind of things, which in reality, Christianity, I myself as a Muslim, I see that Christianity tells you love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And the same thing in Islam, love and respect your neighbors and be kind, how Jesus was kind to the prostitutes, to the beggars, to the low levels of society, how even with the aspect of Prophet Muhammad in Islam, be kind and defenders of Jews and Christians, like how Saladin in the Holy Land protected the Christian people and defended their churches and relics. So in Judaism, it's the same. You have those that love and respect each other. And so many social activists that I see here in America, majority of them are led by Jewish individuals who are there leading these social organizations trying to help people. So good and humanity exist and it knows no bounds. And humanity can be found in all religions and races. Like recently here, I'm friends with the Indian Punjabi Sikh community, and they have sent many of their delegations recently, doctors, and those that cook food for the poor people. They sent them to the Ukraine to help people that are suffering right now from war. So for them, it didn't matter that these people didn't look like us, didn't believe the same religion as us. It's not about that. It's about helping humanity when humanity needs help. Whether it's Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, Ukraine, What happened in Serbia during the 1990s Yugoslavian wars does not matter. It's about humanity. Humanity is humanity. Put those other things on the side. First, help your fellow brother and sister.
Well said, brother. Just another question regarding the Ankh symbol that you mentioned, which I haven't heard and would be interesting if you could elaborate. You said that it represents the unity of male and female.
Mm.
Could you elaborate a little bit more? Because Ankh actually is like a cross, right, of different kinds, the cross. So how it unites male and female symbols. Could you share a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So basically the Ankh, if you look at it, it's the ovaries of the woman on the top, the circular oval shape, and on the bottom you have the phallic symbol of the man. So both of them, when they come together, they create life. And that is symbolized here in the Washington, D.C. as well, where you have the Washington Monument, which is the obelisk, which represents the male phallus. And also you have the Oval Office, the ovaries, the White House. So it's all connected. And even symbolically, Washington, D.C. is showing you that unity between man and woman. You can go to different religious sites or places in the world, and you will see the aspects of the male and feminine natures being connected and there to, let's say, connect with each other. Because if the masculine and feminine aspects don't come together, whether it's within yourself or in the world around you, then humanity will lose itself. So the 7 to 8 billion people that exist in this world right now, how did they come into existence? When the man and woman came together and created life, and we came through the womb of the cosmos, through the womb of the mother. So if right now we're living in a society where man and woman are being divided, that's not going to ensure human survival for the coming future, where people refuse to get married, they refuse to have children, they refuse to get involved in any groups. Everyone wants to stay home, play on their phones, play video games, and everyone else leave me alone. That's not how the human race will survive. We have to put down our egos and come together. And that is the Ankh, where the man's highest calling is to be a lover and defender of his woman. A woman's highest calling is the same. We have to come together. And I'm seeing that right now here in the States, where men and women are against each other right now. So, we have to be able to come together. So not only race and religion, but also genders, not to ensure the survival of this species for the next 100 years or 200 years, which I hope I can start seeing the seeds of that planet within my lifetime. And, through the Masonic Brotherhood, I will continue to labor towards that.
Excellent. And thank you. And last question from me, and then I'll return to the questions in the chat room. Math principles, those are very interesting principles, and to some extent, those are very practical principles that rule the profane life. It's not about the afterlife presence on or collecting some credits for afterlife only. It is how to deal with the environment, how to create physical environment, how to care, how to protect the physical environment you live in, as well as the environment you create around you with your community, not cursing, not saying bad words and stuff like that. But in general, I was thinking how math principles were enacted in or enforced, may I use this word, in contemporary understanding in the ancient society, Egyptian society. Was there any like I understand that we had kurums, like the priests, high priests, and sort of quite an organized religion there. Was there how these principles were kind of enforced in this society? Was there any punishment, you would say, in real physical life, not afterlife, or was there anything how to promote these principles in your life? Were there any tools applied? And that's one question. And also, if these principles anyhow are related to making pharaoh ritual, which was for pharaohs only, or the hereditar who would become the pharaoh. It would go through certain rituals. And if these principles were part of that ritual anyhow, if you, to the best knowledge you may have.
Yes, my brother. And you know, it's interesting because if you look at the Magi of the Egypt, the Magi were protectors and enforcers of the laws of the pharaohs and the kings and the various kings and queens that came into existence. So if you look at the symbol of the Magi, it's the all-seeing eye of Ra, the seeing all-seeing eye of the grand architect of the universe. And the Magi were the ones that would check up on the people, make sure that the law was being enforced, and also anyone that suffered any kind of injustice, or if there was something that was, or if there was an imbalance of every kind, the Magi were the Freemasons of their time that were the protectors and guardians of their land. And the people would go to them to ask for help if there was any issue of any kind. Also, they would be the ones that would also reprimand individuals who would go out of bounds and break any kind of rule per se. And the second thing is that you also have the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, where you had those that were operative masons that built the temples of Luxor and all the temples that are there. Then you would also have the speculative masons who would go on a 15-year journey. And this is something even Pythagoras himself, when he got initiated into the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, he had to go through a 15 to 20-year cycle of study before he was even initiated into the mystery schools. Moses, being a part of the royal family, was initiated into the ancient Egyptian mysteries. So it's the aspect of the 357, the magic square coming up to 15, where the first stage, which is the EA, could take you 3 years. Second stage, which is the fellow craft, could take you 5 years. And the third stage, which is the master mason, could take you 7 years to complete. So it would take you 15 years in the speculative school of ancient Egypt to be what you know as a master mason today. And if you look at a lot of the ancient Egyptian temples, you will see the pillars, the obelisks, the archway, the temples, the archway of initiation. They even had that in ancient Egypt, the archway of initiation. So all these concepts have existed since time immemorial. And that's the beauty of Freemasonry, Brother David, is that no exclusive group or individual has any exclusive claim upon the fraternity. Whether it's, you can go to Sufism, Kabbalah, you can go to Gnosticism, you can go to ancient Sumerians with Gilgamesh, you can go to ancient Egypt, Hinduism, Buddhism. There's a little bit of truth found everywhere that is applied in the universal teachings of Freemasonry, where everyone has a stake or a piece of the pie. Everyone has one. And that's the beauty of this brotherhood, my brother, is that the pharaohs, they had their initiatic mystery schools that Plato, Socrates, Pythagoras, they all went through when the Greeks were in ancient Egypt. And you also had the Magi's that were there to be the enforcers of the rule of the law of the land. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. It definitely adds more thoughts to the concept. So thank you so much. Let's go to Clyde, and then we have a few questions to answer.
Hi. Yeah, I'll be real quick. I just wanted, I was just looking for recommendations on any like pieces of literature that expand more on Sufism. Preferably nothing by Hafiz or Rumi. The ground there has been covered, but I wanted to hear what you'd recommend in that respect.
Yeah, you can read The Mystics of Islam by Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall has written a lot of good books on Freemasonry and other literatures. And his book, The Mystics of Islam, has always aided me as well. And also the spiritual practices of the Sufi Freemasons. This is an individual from Germany who had went and studied under the Bektashis of Turkey. And in there, he reveals their teachings and practices. So the first book I recommend is The Mystics of Islam by Manly P. Hall. And the second author is the spiritual teachings of the Sufi Freemasons. I do not recall the author's name, but he has a German name. You'll find him. I think it's Baron, and I can't recall his last name.
Thank you. Let's go to Brother Khalib's questions. Dear Salman, thank you for the presentation. What further study would you do, or were you inspired to discover or learn as a part of your research on Ma'at? If you could, would you travel for the research?
Yes, my brother. So, this is going to be funny because when I was going through my videos, making videos on different races and religions and philosophies in comparison to Masonic values, I got inspired to do the video on Ma'at after playing the game Assassin's Creed Origins. Because in Assassin's Creed Origins, the first game, it takes place in Egypt. And in Egypt, you go around as a magi and you protect the people. And I'm like, you know what? This, as a Freemason, if I look at it with an initiatic eye, everything that I see in this video game seems very familiar to me. For those that have played the Assassin's Creed video games, and you see how the Knights Templars and the Assassins are always fighting with each other in the video game. So that always intrigued me, that what is this game actually teaching us? What are the underlying lessons that the writers and the creators and developers of this game are trying to teach us? So that's what inspired me to look into Ma'at and the other teachings that are there. And I'm like, you know what? I haven't seen anybody do a video of Ma'at and Freemasonry. So as a builder, we all been given the tools. So if nobody is doing it, you can make one yourself. So that's the beauty of the fraternity, is that you see the different principles. And I looked at Ma'at, I saw the teachings and I saw these different things, and I'm like, you know what, I should definitely look into this. But in terms of the reading material, I would definitely recommend to Brother Caleb, read the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, because the Book of the Dead, in terms of the literature, if you read the translated English version, it will help you see a lot of their rituals and a lot of the things that their teachings that they did, and their other principles of their initiatic mystery schools, where if you have the eye of the initiate, you will see what they were trying to teach you. So even if you read the Book of the Dead, that will teach you a lot right there by its own self.
And if you could, would you travel for research?
Yes,
That's the easy one, I think.
I would love to, because as Freemasons, we're supposed to be traveling men and go and travel the world. So in my Masonic journey, the only place that I have been to outside of America is England, and I have sat in a lodge in England. But besides England and America, my Masonic journey has not taken me anywhere besides those two. So yeah, I would love to, if given the opportunity.
We could do that together, huh? There are
Yeah,
plenty of places to go to and enjoy new experiences. So another question that comes from Brother Caleb is, some things that came to my mind in your presentation were seeing the feather, weighed the heart, reminded me of a quill or a scribe. It all seems that intention is a facet of Ma'at. I also thought of justice and mercy and the notion of impartiality. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that is absolutely true, because the aspect of justice, Brother David, and what our fraternity teaches us to, be the upholders of justice, as we see the Freemasons in the American Revolution, in the French Revolution, in different revolutions across the world. Even my home country of Pakistan was created through Masonic influence, because His Highness Aga Khan from the Ismailis was influential with the British royal families at that time. And it was through their influences and all those people that were there that my home country of Pakistan is in existence today, because of the Freemasons and all the things that happened at the end of the British Raj. America is in existence because of the Freemasons. The French Revolution, or this revolution here, or all these things which when people said we have enough is enough, we will stand up against tyranny, and people came together for the betterment of their people. So those are Masonic principles and actions. Even if you look at how Freemasons have shaped the world history, the makers of kings and queens of this world, that's who the Freemasons are. And I believe our modern Freemasons today have forgotten that when we see injustice taking place over the world and we're all hiding in our homes and nobody wants to take the mantle and do anything about it.
Thank you. I will read the comment which Brother Fred shared. The whole of two truths. The deceased's heart was weighed against the shoe feather of truth and justice taken from the headdress of the goddess Maat. If the heart was lighter than the feather, they could pass on. But if it were heavier, they would be devoured by the demon Amut. And Pascal of ASAH agreed that wonderful statement, Amut being the principle of the apex predator, the fastest and the most brutal on the land and in water. The only way to escape Amut is to elevate about its sphere of influence, or above the sphere of its influence. So this is just comments that would be good to keep it in the recording. The question that comes from Chris. Dear brother, we can see how Nubians nurtured in ancient times all these great doctrines. Are there Nubian groups today that practice and live these same principles on its pristine nature? Thank you.
Yes, Brother Chris, and thank you for your question. There are many Nubian tribes if you go to Sudan and other parts of, because at that, what you know as the modern day boundary of Egypt, that's not its original boundary. Egypt extended all the way from Sudan, all the way up until what you know as the so-called Middle East of today, because that is just a modern invention in terms of the geographic names of those lands. Everything used to be open back in those days. So if you look at Sudan, Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt. And if you go to Sudan, a lot of those Nubian tribes, you see their customs and their traditions, they still live in the same concept. With nature, by nature, you will see that in their appearances, how they live, in their lifestyle, how they grow their food, agriculture, education. So there are certain parts of the world where if you go there, the people are still living faithfully in those lands. Just like how if you go to Algeria and you go to the Al Hagar Mountains, there will be certain sections of that mountain you won't be able to go to because of the indigenous people, the Berbers, or what they know as the blue people. And these blue people, they refer to them as the people of the inner earth, of the inner civilizations of earth. So a lot of indigenous peoples, they carry the secrets and traditions which have not been given to us because we have fallen out of alignment with spirituality, not just with each other, but with ourselves. So whether it's the Nubian tribes or the Al Hagar tribes or the Berbers of Algeria, there will be certain places where if you are not one of them, you will not be given access to the wisdom and places and things like that. So they're still there. Definitely, they're still there.
Thank you. Let's go to another question.
Thank you so much, Brother Salman. Thank you.
Thank you. The question comes from Jeffrey Turnbull. What is the best way to understand the distinction in Freemasonry between the light right-hand path versus the dark left-hand path?
So with that, excuse me for a second.
Okay, that's your fault.
Yeah. So with the right-hand path is basically, in Sufism, they tell us that whether you're dealing with the left branch of the tree or the right branch of the tree, you're ultimately dealing with the same exact being. So the right-hand path is a path of benevolence, which is, let's say, you're doing the right thing, you're serving God, you're serving each other. You don't have any malevolent intentions of any kind. So you're trying to do the right thing no matter what race or religion you're trying to follow. The left-hand path are those that can be dark occultists. They can be into dark practices, dark groups, and you can encounter these people who are part of these different groups where they're doing black magic, where they're doing chaos magic, dark magic, and they're into these things which can it can lead you down a very bad path. But at the same time, if you look at it, in the Sufi tradition, they even tell us, and this is a teaching from Mansur al-Hallaj, that Iblis or Lucifer did not want to bow down before Allah or God because he did not want to worship any being besides the creator of the universe. So when he was told that I want you to bow before Adam, that was a test, because then Iblis said, the only thing I see is you and only you. How can you expect me to bow down to anything else besides you? So in a lot of the Sufi occult teachings, they would tell you that in order for you to get out of this prison that you're in, because this open air prison, this earth that we're stuck in, you have to be able to go through Iblis, because he was the most jealous lover of Allah or God. And he did not want any human to get close to God besides him. So any human that tries to get close to God, he will try to put bad influences in their life to sever that connection with the creator. So bad habits, bring up old friends back in their life, old people that will start reaching out back to them out of nowhere. So in a lot of the Sufi teachings, they tell you that to get to God, you have to go through the devils and the demons too at the same time. So everything has a purpose. If jinns, devils, and demons and humans, if they did not serve a purpose, then the grand architect of the universe would not have put them here, because nothing exists. Everything is physics, cause and effect. If you have a purpose, you're here. So, there can be good jinns, there can be bad jinns. You have good people, you have bad people. So there's goodness and badness exist everywhere, because one cannot exist without the other, whether you're dealing with the Kabbalistic tree of order and chaos, or whether you're looking at the Sufi aspect of the left hand branch or the right hand branch, but it all belongs to the same tree. So in the Sufi aspect, everything in existence is God manifesting itself through itself. Whether it's me, you, Brother Chris, Brother Hasu, Brother David, everyone is a manifestation of that infinite reality, experiencing itself through infinite realities and avatars and timelines and synchronicities. So everything in reality is God. So in reality, if you're a left hand or a right hand, it doesn't matter. You're still going back to that same source. And in Sufi traditions, when somebody dies, they say, to God we belong and to him we shall return. Because when you eat the fruit, you keep biting at the apple, at the center, you'll get to the seed, the origin of that fruit. So ultimately, whether you bite the apple from the left side or the right side, you're still doing the same thing and getting to the same thing. Ultimately, what comes down to it is you do not hurt anybody. Those who hurt people for ill motives or ill gain, you will have a price to pay for that. So as long as your path is helping you become a better person and you're not hurting anybody, then you do what you need to do to get to that understanding and synchronicity in your life.
Thank you. Pardons, clarification, please.
Yes, sir.
I asked a question on the distinction between left hand and right hand regarding Freemasonry, and it sounded as if you were speaking in terms of Sufism. Is there an answer now in regard to Freemasonry? And it may not be directed to you. It may be
Brother
anybody
Jeffrey.
else who has the
You
answer.
have on the left-hand path, you have the dark Masons. I've dealt with Masons who were part of dark occultist groups. And that doesn't mean that that's all of Freemasonry. So you could have a Freemason that's you could view him as a Freemason, but outside of the fraternity, his membership cross-references across all different occult organizations. While those you have that are the right-hand Masons, they're the good ones that are doing the charities for their neighborhoods, that are trying to help the widows and orphans, they're trying to help each other. While those that are the dark Masons, they tend to stick with each other, only help the ones that are connected to them, and abuse others. So that's going into a very dangerous debate in terms of our fraternity. But just recognize that good and bad you will find in all races, religions, and groups of the world. You can go to a local church. You don't know what that priest might be doing with that child. So you'll have those good and bad elements everywhere that are there. That is just the nature of the reality that we're in, of dark and light being everywhere. So I hope, in the best of my understanding, I was able to answer your question.
Oh, I'll be working on that question a lot longer, I'm sure. But thank you very much for your attempt.
No worries.
Thank you.
Brother Jeffrey, excuse me. There's a video that I have done on my YouTube channel, the difference between a social club Mason, a light Mason, and a dark Mason. You can find that on my YouTube channel, and I did a whole 30 to 35-minute extensive breakdown. So that just came to me right now. You can find that video on my channel, and that will answer your question.
Mahalo.
I'll post it here in the link for you.
Yeah, and the link to the channel has been posted. Yeah, and Salman, if you would repost it, would be great.
Yep, I'll post that link for him right now, so that answers his dark Mason and light Mason question.
All right. There is a question which Ife Sinachi is asking regarding how to join the fraternity. Well, first of all, I will just quickly respond that it depends on where you geographically reside. You need to locally try to join them. It's a local engagement. If you have means to travel to a nearby country and you don't have any local fraternity representatives where you can just go and knock, then you can just try to find
electricity.
Okay, so that would be, you would have to find one nearby country. Just if you can share where you live, I can kind of give you an idea how to find one in nearby city or in your country. Again, those are formalities. You just have to knock, and the rest, there is a procedure that you have to follow, and that procedure might be different from different jurisdictions. Depending on where you live, they may accept you, they may not accept you, but it's absolutely their sovereign kind of decision. Just to go to the Q&A session, and part of the questions, Caleb is asking, one thing that stood out to me regarding Ma'at was not to waste food or water. How would you advocate or interpret this practice in modern time? What solutions would you offer?
Well, that's a good question, my brother. And I see that a lot. People, they put too much on their plate and they'll waste food, which they cannot eat or digest or have access to. While I see people here in one part of the country, here in America, people are struggling to lose weight and they have infinite access to majority of the food. While you look at other countries in the world where people are starving and skin and bones and have very limited access to food. And we see how ungrateful humanity can be when we're losing food and we're not treating each other correctly. So everything is done in moderation, even with what Freemasonry teaches us, that handle everything in moderation. And any food that you cannot eat, do not waste it, do not throw it away. Rather, give it to another living creature. I always put bread outside for the birds, and the birds would eat the bread. Or if I put it outside, the squirrels can eat it, who are always searching for food. At night times, the raccoons come out. They're always searching for food. So as long as your food goes to the stomach of another living being, then you get the credit for that. Go to the homeless shelter and donate your food there. Donate it to your neighbor. Donate it to an animal or a human being or any individual in need that can benefit from that food, rather than you waste that food. Because if you reciprocate that law of being a giver to all beings on this earth, then you're already making the world a better place. That's what I do.
Thank you. There is a comment from Pascal, and I will read it. Originally, the Ankh was a symbol of the union of positive and negative ions, masculine and feminine aspects joining in balance, harmony, order. Furthermore, it is a biological map of the human body, signaling the point whereby reality, in quotation mark, is formed by the oculus nerves, bridging with the nervous system. This is why it is where Neo in the Matrix is connected to other realities. That was the question, no, sorry, comment, and I'm sure what is the name. What is the name of the second book? I guess that was regarding the book, that two books that you mentioned. One was my Prince Hall, and the second book was from a German.
Yep. So the first book,
It's-
my brother, was The Mystics of Islam by Manly P. Hall. And the second book is The Spiritual Practices of the Sufi Freemasons. This is from a German. I know his first name is Baron, but I cannot recall his last name. And if you search it on Amazon, you will find it. And this Baron individual from Germany, he went and studied under the Bektashis of Turkey, and they were able to teach him many occult teachings of the Quran, the Arabic language, how if you read certain surahs of the Quran, how it opens up these gateways inside of you. And I will show you that in the Sufism presentation, which I have coming up soon, which is part 2 to the part 1 that I did earlier this year.
Thank you. And for the recording purposes, Denise also shared the comment, which states that equality will help that divide between men and women.
Yes.
So one day, and we hope sooner than later. Denise.
Yeah, that's true, because I've spoken to a lot of brother Masons, and there's always that debate that if your daughter wants to join something to become a better person, and if someone denies them, saying that just because you're a woman, you're not allowed to be with us, wouldn't that be hurtful to you as a brother, to your daughter whom you love very much? And people would say, oh, there's something wrong with her just because she's a woman. But in your eyes, your daughter is the light of your life, your love, and the perfect being. And for someone to deny someone access to knowledge or things like that just because of who she is, I think that's very hurtful. And I hope in the future we can get past those boundaries. Like even what Brother Hasu said, that for Freemasonry to change, the brothers have to come together and they have to demand the change, because all this system that's in existence right now, this is my personal opinion, I represent myself only when I say this, is people have to come together and make sure that they're becoming the change in their own independent jurisdictions. So thankfully in France and in England, there are certain parts where women can join and become Freemasons. But hopefully as time goes on, that can extend outside of France and England as well, officially, like on an official level. I hope so. I hope I see it within my lifetime.
Yes, and just for a brother from Nigeria, I just shared Benevolence of Nigeria's website. That is the Benevolence that is in amity with UGLE. So there are other families as well, but I just don't have their websites at hand. But this one you can definitely knock. There are they have all the contact information there, so you just need to find a way to contact them through their website. Official website is there. Just scroll down the chat that is here in Zoom. So Pascal is asking, dear brother Salman, which of the various translations of the 42 ideals, principles of Ma'at, do thee find to be the most correct in its emitting effect?
Well, the best one that I like is basically to not do any evil of any kind, where you have, I will not be unjust, and I will not cause any pain of any kind, and I will not desecrate holy places, because those principles are teaching us to be just, to be the perpetuators of order, justice, cosmic truth, just like how Freemasons are teaching us to be the defenders of this generation and of this community. So to not be unjust, to not do any evil, to not speak any evil, to not desecrate anything that is holy, and to be a true and lawful brother, not only of the craft, but also what Ma'at is teaching you, to follow those principles with the divine cosmic order, justice, truth, and just do the right thing with the right time that's been given to you. As even Freemasonry tells you that every day that rope, that noose around your neck is getting tighter every day. And every day, each breath you draw, you're getting closer to death. So just make the best of what's been given to you and follow these principles of what not only our brotherhood is teaching you, but all these other philosophies and teachings that are also implying the same.
Thank you. And Paul Court is asking, can you recommend any books on Egyptian mysticism?
For Egyptian mysticism, I would recommend, there's a book by Manly P. Hall. It's called The Secret Teaching of All Ages. That's a good book, and he covers a lot of Egyptian mysticism and Egyptian mystery schools in that book. So the books that I benefited from are Secret Teachings of All Ages, and also the translated, I'll put this in the chat for you, the translated papyrus of the Book of the Dead. Because as Freemasons, we're always reminded of our death. So I found the Book of the Dead very relevant, and the translated papyrus that Egyptologists and scholars have carefully translated from the tablets and from the hieroglyphics from what they found in ancient Egypt. So read these two books, and they will definitely benefit you and aid and assist you in understanding ancient Egyptian wisdom.
Thank you. Jeffrey is asking, Brother Salman,
Yeah.
is there a numerous of his sects? Which one are you aligned studying with?
Thank you, Brother Jeffrey, for that question. So my initiation is with the Naqshbandi, with the Naqshbandi Sufis. I'm also with the Murid, who are from Senegal, West Africa. And I'm also a part of the Fatimiyya Sufi Tariqa. So I'm part of 3 different Sufi orders that I've been initiated in. And yeah, it's all there. Basically, when you take the hand of the worshipful master, it's the equivalent of taking the hand of the sheikh, who becomes your spiritual guide and who gives you the knowledge, the tools, and the teachings, and what you need to do in your practices so you can uphold yourself and build yourself as a better man.
All right, and just a correction from Pascal that he meant as from which translator, not the principle itself, but which translator, as many different versions of 42 principles have been published, in which many have been infused with Abrahamic words and syntactical grammar. So if you know the different translations of the original Mad principles, and if there is any you can recommend as the better translation.
Yes, definitely, Brother Pascal. And you know, that's absolutely true, because if you look at the different teachings that are there, you have to be able to find the ones that are actually detailed and don't have any bias of any kind. So the ones that I always benefited from were the ones that were actually translated by Egyptologists. Now, there's a book on Amazon. It's only $12, and it's written by Dr. Mauta Ashby, and it has over 100 5-star ratings. And that is the 42 principles of Ma'at and their righteous actions of wisdom. And basically, it's like a study guide, which helps you. So I will post a link of Dr. Mauta Ashby's book that will benefit you. This is the version of Ma'at's translated work, which I had benefited from, and I would recommend the same to you.
All right, thank you. I guess more or less we have covered all the questions. Interesting links have been shared, and please kind of save the chat room for later, readdressing it. For those who are asking how to join, again, at hand, I have only UGLE website, and which means that those are GLs that are recognized and in amity with UGLE, though again, there are not many, but several other families of the same. There are liberal ones, there are mixed ones, there are Memphis and Mitzrayim. We have some participants here who are members of it. I don't particularly know which one is in Kenya, but again, you start from here and try to find the links there. Otherwise, it is quite hard to define which one is which, because unfortunately there are a lot of scams and there are very dishonest people who try to scam you and take your money away. There are several basic principles and that no fraternity whatsoever, traditional or liberal, will not take any money from you until you are part of them, until you are well aware of where you applied. If you are accepted, there is no fee to process your documents, so don't get in those kind of speculations. If you get the response, there will be people who will be talking to you, there will be interviews held, and right after that, when you are given the date, the place, and the proper preparation has been performed, then you will be given the, and actually in advance, you will be advised what the fees are, if it's bearable for you, if it's okay for your pocket. So don't go into these scams and just pay money to people who claim to be of different jurisdictions. That's just my advice. Life is yours, choices are yours, and don't fall into this Illuminati kind of groups who try to make you rich in 10 minutes after you join, as if some boxes full of bucks or money is waiting for you. It's just your phone call or contact them. Those are schemes to take the last money that you are in your pocket. So don't fall on those dishonest people's schemes. So I guess that's it for now. We've been around for more than 2 hours and a half. As always, it's so pleasant talking to you, Brother Salman, and it's always endless the topics that we cover, and the questions always come more. And which, again, this curiosity to learn and this eagerness to learn more is always there. And definitely Maat and ancient Egypt is something to explore by itself, not only through the fraternal glasses, but in itself, it's a huge concept, philosophy, way of life. And as you rightly said, there are groups and peoples and most probably nations who still live through these principles in their daily life. And once again, thank you so much. I guess we can ask for final question or comment in the room if anyone wants to take the floor and the opportunity to ask final question, and then we'll start closing the session. Okay, great lecture. Thank yous in the YouTube. Okay, greetings from Houston, Texas. Okay, Serendipity Lore says that Faulkner translation of Book of the Dead is more accurate than Budge's version due to more expended resources. So for those who want to read the Book of the Dead, that's also something you may want to consider during your exploration. Okay, is Freemason one of their denominations? I mean, are there different kind of Masons or one Freemason with one ideology? That's a huge topic to address right now, but I'll try to simplify. There is a family of traditional fraternity, and usually you may see that the GLs of different countries or territories are in enmity with UGLA, which is United Grand Lodge of England. So you may call them traditional. Some call it regular, but here we try to use traditional and liberal terminology. There is another group, which is more French continental group, which have the same principles, which observe the same principles of regularity, but they are not in amity with UGLA. There is third dimension, and we yesterday had the pleasure to host Sister Mireille, who is from the Grand Orient of France, which has its own, generally speaking, mainly the same principles of regularity, but there are 2-3 principles which they see differently. And let's say in belief in God, the supreme being is not an important, let's say it's up this supremacy of freedom of consciousness is the principle they observe, and anyone can join Grand Orient of France in that regard, of course, with due procedures. There is also Memphis Mitzrayim part of the family, which is there, and it has its own history, its philosophy, its rituals. There is a mixed one, which is men and women together, and there are different organizations which are like commissary. You have Les Droits Humains, which is human rights in translation. So there are some group which is in this family of the Freemasonry, and it's again up to you where you knock. It's up to you to decide where to join, and of course, it's up to them to accept you as the member. So again, it's a huge topic. It cannot be covered right away, and if you want to search more details, please proceed with Google has quite a lot of information available, and of course try to find someone nearby you who can guide you through some kind of understanding of the fraternity, and you may want to choose between this variety of groups to join. In general, altogether we come together as human kind and try to change ourselves, improve ourselves, and try to improve the community we live in. And if the resources and our ambitions, in good sense of this word, allow us, we try to impact on the country and bigger, wider part of the society. So, generally speaking, that's it. Through charity, through your good deeds, through different principles that are being applied. And we today had exactly a discussion of math principles which applied to life will definitely make your life much better, and your experience and enjoyment of this life much better. So this is kind of a very general, very brief kind of understanding of what fraternity is all about. Again, so Brother Salman, maybe you may want to leave any final remarks. Again, you may want to share the YouTube channel, even though I shared it here. You may want to spell it out for recording purposes. You do an excellent job. You have a lot of interesting content on your YouTube channel, and you may want to expose it here on Sapere Aude as well. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother David. And for final remarks, I would say again, this presentation was dedicated to Sapere Aude and Brother David Chichinadze, who always invites me and shows me love, brotherly love, because in today's society, wherever you are invited and celebrated, those are the people you need to stick by, those who honor you, cherish you, and invite you personally to any event or engagement. So it's very nice to see this, and I'm truly honored that the first time I was on Sapere Aude, it was very well received with the Sufism and Freemasonry presentation. The second, I'm here with Ma'at and Freemasonry, and next week I look forward for my third appearances to expand on Sufism and Freemasonry, which I have a lot of good information, my brother, ready for all of you. So I'm looking forward to that. I love you all dearly. Thank you so much. Thank you for being my brothers and sisters and my friends. always looking out for me. As in Freemasonry, when you join the brotherhood, the world becomes a very small place. And anywhere you go, you always have your brothers there for you. And I'm truly grateful for that. Sister Denise, Brother Stephen Florian, Jeffrey Turnbull, Brother Chris, Caleb. I hope I was able to answer everyone's questions, Clyde. And I give my regards and reverence for everyone. I look forward to being with you all next week. And my YouTube channel is, you just search my first and last name on YouTube, Salman Sheikh, and you will see me. I'll be the first one that comes on top. Just click, and I have over 300 videos on not just Sufism in general, but all different topics and discussions, which I hope you will be able to benefit from. And that's all that matters. And I thank you all, Brother David, and everyone again. And I look forward to being back with you all for Sufism Part 2.
Thank you so much, Brother Salman, for a very interesting second talk, and looking forward to the second part of Sufism to be discussed. The first part was very, very positively accepted, not only during the discussion, but a lot of comments. You've been seeing them came on the channel asking for continuation and asking for another chance to talk to you. So those who might be interested in Sufism as such, please join us next week. You will properly receive all the notification in a due manner and time. Just responding to Leonidas, I reshared the link to the Sapere Aude YouTube channel. All the recordings of Sapere Aude from the very first one till this, the one that is being recorded right now, is available there. Just one thing that, when live link is shared, that link is later changed, because my designer who helps me, we put it in a more friendly kind of manner, design, so you can easily identify the number, identify the topic, the speaker, so on. So it takes a day or two, sometimes a week, for him to redesign the recording, and I have to upload it again to the YouTube channel, and that is the permanent one that will stay there. The live will be disabled. So remembering the link now would not help you, because in a day or two it will be disabled. Anyway, if you will experience any problem with Sapere Aude lectures, just drop me a line anywhere. I'm available on WhatsApp, Telegram, Messenger, email, everything. It may take a while to respond, but I definitely will respond, and I will help you out with all the recordings. From my side, it is left to me to remind everyone who will be watching this as a recording that today we had Sapere Aude number 304. And today's topic was the teaching of Ma'at from ancient Egypt in comparison to Masonic teachings. And that was delivered by Brother Salman Sheikh. And today is 9th of May, 2022. And this concludes our lecture today. So Nahwamdis, that's goodbye in my native Georgian. We'll be seeing you on Wednesday with another interesting lecture. And once again, thank you so much, Brother Salman.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
It was great.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Have a good day.
See you all next
Thank you,
week.
Salman. Thank you, David. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. You're welcome. See you. For those who might be for the first time here, I've shared several times the links to where you can kind of join WhatsApp groups or Telegram group, whichever you like. The information is identical in both channels, in both groups, or drop me your email. I will add you to the mailing list, and you will be notified in a proper way if you need to, or if you like Sapere Aude lectures. And you can all the time join us, or join us to the topics and discussions which you like. So we'll be seeing you on Wednesday, and Wednesday's topic, let me remind you, is okay, we will be meeting with Randy Sanders with some sort of esoteric topic of our fraternity again, and I will update you tomorrow regarding the proper topic. See you tomorrow. Oh, sorry, see you on Wednesday.
David, may I ask?
Yes, Laurent.
Okay. Could you consider, please, to start a little later on 18th of May? Could be possible that some brethren could join the concert. Let's say half an hour, 45 minutes later. Could be possible.
Let me check with Salman.
Okay. I will ask. I will also ask Salman if possible for him, because I'm in a very good relation with him. Just
Yeah, sure.
to know. Okay. If possible.
Let's try. Let's try to accommodate. Yes, why not?
We have also to check exactly the time, because now it's something like 9:30. I guess it's yes. It's 9:40. So that means we'll start 9:30. It's 6:30. It's 3 hours earlier. So what time is in GMT now? It's 7:30, maybe.
It should be for 6:40 should be in GMT 0 now, not UK, because UK is +1 at the moment.
All
GMT
right.
0, it's now 6:40 or
6:40.
37.
Okay, yes. Okay, so now it's 9:40. That means it will start 6:30 p.m. We have
6:30 your time.
Yep.
Which is 3:30 GMT time, is I suppose. Okay, let's discuss it in private, and we still have like more than a week ahead, and let's see how we can accommodate the two. At least you can share with me the invitation that you want to share. I will circulate it definitely in our groups.
This time will be quality live streaming, and of course free, no problem. Everybody who would like to join is welcome.
Yeah. Again, it's just concert, not participation, right? It's not. There is no discussion, or there is no. It's just a live on Facebook, most probably on YouTube, which people can turn on.
Well, I have to check with the one who will from a technical squad.
Okay, let's discuss before we change anything here. Let's discuss that what is the channel that we'll be using to broadcast the concert live.
Probably will be several. Could be Facebook, YouTube, could be several, not only one.
Yeah. Okay. Let's discuss how we can do it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Ife Sinachi, please invite me. Again, all the meetings from Sapere Aude are promoted on its Facebook page. It's very simple. Facebook page, find Sapere Aude Facebook page. You will see all the events. If you go to the tab events, it already has all the details how to connect to all the meetings. These meetings are public anyway. So you don't, if you want to be on the mailing list, again, send me your email and I will put you on the mailing list. Or you can use just the public domain, which is Facebook page, and every time those links are different. It is not the same link every time. It changes for security reasons. You just need to go every time to the event page of that particular date, click on it, and it'll take you to the meeting. And here I will always welcome you. You will have to wait in the waiting room, and yeah, there's no problem in joining. We're an open community here. I hope I answered. Okay, I saw your email. I will put you on the mailing list. All right, then, let's, I think that's it for today, and we'll be seeing you on Wednesday. Bye for now.
Thank you and good night. Thank you.
Good night and enjoy the rest of the day. And if anyone wants to save the chat, do it now. In 5 more seconds, I will close the room.
Right.